Michael Jordan is considered the greatest of all time as he had won 6 championships in 1991, 1992, 1993, 1996, 1997, and 1998. As you can see, Jordan had 2 3-peats in his career, but come to think of it, why was MJ not a champion in between of 1994 and 1995? Well, in 1993, MJ's dad died, and Michael had to retire from basketball to pursue his dad's dream for him to play baseball. Even though MJ just won a title that year. I mean, MJ was in the apex of his career, but the tragedy happened and he had to leave the game for a short while. And at the same time, after winning the last championship in 1998, MJ retired again and everyone from the Bulls core had gone to different teams. Pippen went to the Rockets, Rodman and Phil Jackson went to the Lakers, and the main pieces from the 1998 roster were traded to different teams. Because the Bulls front office, specifically the general manager, Jerry Krause, wanted to rebuild the team after the 1998 season. Actually, he wanted to break the team even before the Bulls won the championship in 1998. I mean, what if? What if Jordan never left in 1993 to play baseball? What if Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, and Phil Jackson stayed together after 1998 and that the Jerry Krause fiasco never happened? Could Jordan have won more than 6 championships in his career if he didn't retire twice in the 90's? Before we get through it, I'm Kyle, and this is The Bounce, and let's break it down. In the 1993-1994 season, the Bulls had no choice but to move on from their best player, Michael Jordan. The throne to lead the team was given to Scottie Pippen, and actually, they did pretty well. The Bulls' record in that season is 55-27, wherein that was 2 less wins from the previous championship season with Michael Jordan. The team proved that they can adjust. Pippen led the team, Horace Grant and BJ Armstrong put up better numbers, and both also became all-stars in this season. The MJ-less Bulls surprisingly reached the semifinals against the New York Knicks, but they lost. But at least the Bulls fought since the series actually went to 7 games. If Jordan never retired and was part of the Bulls team in 1994, the Bulls could have passed through the New York Knicks. Since their playoff matchup in the previous year, the Bulls won against the Knicks in 6 games. So you can see that they are capable of beating Ewing's Knicks team. To make it simple, if Jordan was there with the Bulls, they'll pass through the competition in the East and have gone to the finals. MJ's Bulls would have a date with the most challenging team that they may have ever faced in the finals, which is the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets were the champions in the 1993-1994 season, so it would have been interesting to see if Jordan played in this and had not retired. We would have seen matchup of Hakeem Olajuwon and Michael Jordan in the finals. Now, people would say that the Rockets championship in 1994 was a fluke. Since Jordan didn't play that year, it means that they got an easy pass in being champions. But every time the Rockets faced the Bulls in 91-93, the Rockets beat the Bulls 5 games to 1. And 4 of the games won by the Rockets were in double digits. 91-93 were the years that the Bulls became champions, and they really struggled against the Rockets. Jordan himself thinks if they played the Houston Rockets, it would be a mismatch. Because of the fact that nobody is capable of defending Hakeem, because the Bulls doesn't really have a strong big man at the time. Since Dennis Rodman arrived with the Bulls in 1995. So if you think of it, if they let Hakeem play his matchup would have a hard time against Hakeem. And if they commit to double teaming Hakeem, Hakeem can just pass the ball out of the three-point line because the Rockets had a lot of great three-point shooters. Kenny the Jet Smith, Mario Elie, Robert Horry, and Sam Cassell. I mean, the Rockets in 1994 shot the most three-pointers a game in the league with 5.2 3-points per game. Compared to today's game, 5.2 3-points per game of a team is very low. But at the 90's, that was actually good. I mean, those Rocket team were the Warriors before the Warriors in three-point shooting. So that would be a trouble for the Bulls. And other than that, the Rockets also was a great defensive team with Vernon Maxwell, Mario Elie, and Hakeem Olajuwon. And Jordan's Bulls, without a doubt, might have struggled against the Rockets with the Rockets' great defense, three-point shooting, and the fact that nobody can guard Hakeem would be a matchup problem for the Bulls. But I don't think the Bulls would have let the Rockets steamroll them in the 1994 finals. Let's not forget that Jordan is Jordan and Pippen is Pippen. The Bulls would have tried their best to beat that Rockets team. I mean, if an MJ-less Bulls almost beat the Knicks in the semifinals, going to 7 games, and that the Rockets narrowly beat the Knicks in the finals in reality since it also went to 7 games, then the Bulls with Jordan most likely could have done better against the Rockets, especially that the finals was MJ's cup of tea. The Bulls had momentum of winning 3 straight championships, and I think the Bulls would have shifted gears in the finals against these Rockets. Because even though the Bulls lost 5-1 with the Rockets, the regular season will just be a regular season. And this finals between the Bulls and the Rockets could have shown who really wanted it more with Hakeem and Jordan, and who will make the better adjustments in the finals between Phil Jackson and Rudy Tomjanovich to make their team win. And it's also the same thing in the 1995 season. The Bulls could have faced the Rockets again in the finals, but actually this isn't so much of a what if, since Jordan played in the season playing 17 games, and people's argument is that Jordan may have been rusty since he didn't play mostly of the season, but even with after 4 games, he scored 55 points in the Garden. 55 points after 4 games. And when playoff time came around, Jordan's numbers were actually better than his 1996 championship playoff stats. So, more or less, Jordan was still playing good after 1.5 absence in the game, but they lost to the Magic in the semifinals with 6 games. Although if Jordan hadn't left the Bulls, Horace Grant might have stayed with the team instead of playing with Shaq and Penny Hardaway with the Magic. The front court of Shaq and Horace Grant would have never happened. The Bulls really struggled when Grant left since they didn't have a solid front court or big man in the team. So if Horace Grant stayed with the Bulls, they could have at least beaten the Magic in the semifinals and went against the Rockets again in the finals. Now, this year, the Rockets were the 6th seed and Hakeem wasn't the MVP, so most likely they could have lost against the Bulls here. But the Rockets actually got better in the playoffs, especially adding Clyde Drexler to the team, having another veteran and playoff experience alongside Hakeem. Plus, Hakeem dominated once more in these playoffs, and Hakeem showed the MVP in this season, David Robinson, that his MVP run was a fluke, as Hakeem made David Robinson his dog in the conference finals, as Hakeem averaged 35 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 blocks per game in the series against the Spurs. Plus, in this season, the Rockets swept this Magic team where the Bulls lost to this Magic with MJ. I mean, adding Horace Grant could have helped them fight against the Rockets, but there's a reason why the Rockets, even with being low in the seeding, they proved that they can win the championship for a second time. And at the same time, if Jordan played a full season this year, we would have seen a more mentally and physically driven MJ instead of seeing him play in a limited yet great season that he had in 1995. Anyway, I think the Bulls could have at least won in either the 94 or 95 season due to the fact that Michael Jordan would not back down to Akeem's Rockets. So I think they could have split it. You can make a case that the Bulls won in 94 because they have the momentum on their side as they won 3 championships in a row, and you can make a case that in 95 Horace Grant should have left the Bulls in the first place and the Rockets wasn't better than their 1994 championship. And you can make a case that the Bulls both won in those 2 championships because of the duo of MJ and Pippen, leading against Hakeem Olajuwon only. I mean, 2 is better than 1, right? And you can also make a case that the Bulls both lost it since Hakeem proved that the Bulls really struggles against them since the Rockets are great in offense and defense. And matter of fact, Bulls never even reached the finals in 95 even when Jordan was there.
Together. When you look at the landscape of the NBA, if it had been you and Phil and MJ and Dennis, how many more championships could you have won?
I would probably say at least 2.
Now, I don't think Pippen and Rodman is joking when they can still win more championships if they stayed together after their last championship in 1998. Because, honestly, they have a case in winning that year. The 1998-1999 season, the NBA had a lockout, so there were only 50 games in the regular season. When the Bulls went on their separate ways after their last championship in 1998, Pippen and Rodman weren't as good as they were. Scottie had his back injury after the 1998 finals and didn't have the same number of stats in the prior years. And Dennis Rodman only played 23 games in this lockout with the Lakers and was released afterwards. But if they stayed in 1999, the Bulls could have done great since the games were only for 50 games. They will be fresh for the postseason, there will be less chances of injuries, and Rodman won't have to worry about great chemistry with Jordan, Pippen, and Phil Jackson since he didn't feel the same way with the Lakers in 1999. That year, the Spurs were the champions and they beat an 8-seeded Patrick Ewing-less New York Knicks in the finals. If Jordan and the Bulls played, they would have removed the Knicks in the playoffs since they were the 8th seed, and we would never have witnessed the shocking playoff run of the Knicks. Anyway, the Bulls versus the Spurs finals is for me very hard to predict. It's going to be a front court versus backcourt matchup. David Robinson and Tim Duncan versus Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. The Spurs have always been an underrated franchise, and a lot of people would say that they would not be champions if the Bulls stayed together in 1999. Because as you can see in the previous season in 97-98, the Bulls beat the Spurs 2-0 in the regular season, and at the same time, the Jazz defeated the Spurs in 5 games in the semifinals, and the Bulls beat the Jazz in the finals in 6 games. The Spurs had the same core and almost the same roster, but they added Mario Elie, Antonio Daniels, and Steve Kerr. Although, I think if the Bulls stayed together, Steve Kerr would be with the Bulls. Nonetheless, Elie and Daniels were the missing pieces that made the Spurs a championship team in 1999. The Spurs were 15-2 in the whole playoffs, beating the Timberwolves, Lakers, Blazers, and the Knicks. They were that good, even though at one point Coach Pop was almost fired in this season due to the lack of success early in the season, but it was good that they managed to stay together and become champions. Although if Jordan played in this lockout season, he would still have been more fresh in the playoffs and at the same time dominated, since in his last championship he averaged 32 points per game. Imagine him in these playoffs. Pippen can still do what he can do, and Rodman will try to stop Tim Duncan since David Robinson wasn't scoring as good as before due to his injury in the 96-97 season. And a second-year Tim Duncan would have struggled since Jordan and the Bulls are a veteran team and they were champions for the last 3 years. So I don't think anyone would have stopped them from winning another one, especially in this lockout season. Anyway, this is all hypothetical, but it's fun to think about it that MJ's Bulls could have at least won more than 6 championships, but still, history is history, and we really can't change that. Jordan, even with 6 championships, already made him a legend and will forever be immortalized as one of the greatest athletes and basketball players of all time. We can say that he benefited from retiring to keep a better playoff record, especially his finals record of 6-0, and at the same time, he lost the chance to win more championships with the Bulls if he didn't retire twice. But for me, 9 championships is not impossible. 8 can happen, and 7 is most likely, but 6 championships is already a great fit with MJ, and with MJ, we never know. Thank you guys for watching. Comment down below your prediction on the number of championships Jordan could have won if he did retire twice in the 90s. And also, please subscribe for future contents I will have, and it will be a big help for my channel. Once again, I'm Kyle, and this is The Bounce. Silky out.